Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining today. And we are really excited to be here and share some thoughts and our experiences through the OpenChain communities. And how we can empower contributions from Asia, especially from the Japan, and to the open source world. And now I know it's almost lunchtime, so I promise to keep things moving so you won't miss your meal. And today we are going to explore the approach of building a regional community that is trending in Japan. As far as I know, Share and AI, LF AI and Data is creating Japan Regional Users Group and share experiences that show just how vibrant and collaborative our OpenChain community is. So please relax and enjoy the brief session before we all head to the lunch. And thanks again for being here, and let's get started. And before diving to our main topics, please let us introduce ourselves briefly. And firstly, I'm Norio Kobota from Sony Group Corporation, and I'm working for Sony Group as an OSPO people. And as you know, I'm collaborating our internal developers and help license compliance and encourage to contribute to the open source community. And next, Shima-san.
Thank you for the introduction, Kobota-san. I'm Naomichi Shima from Sony Group Corporation. And I moved to Sony about a year and a half ago. And since my previous company, I have been in charge of formulating and promoting in-house open source management rules, as well as providing education and consulting on in-house OSS licenses for over 10 years. I am now in the same Sony OSPO as Kobota-san, and I am mainly in charge of in-house education on open source license compliance, management, strategy, and so on. I'm also responsible for internal promotion of Linux Foundation training. And I participate in the OpenChain project and lead the licensing FAQ subgroup of the Japan working group. I'm not very good at English, so I'm sorry it may be hard for you to hear. Nice to meet you today.
Thank you, Shima-san. And fortunately, we have the Shane from the OpenChain project, the general manager. So, could you introduce?
All right. So quite a few of you do know me, but some of you might not. I'm the general manager of the OpenChain project, and my job is to coordinate our general work groups on making standards, our industry-specific work groups, like in telco and automotive, addressing industry concerns, but most important for today, coordinating between the country work groups all around the world. So for instance, China, Japan, Korea, India, Germany. And honestly, it's the community part and the local communities that have provided the momentum and the power behind changing the supply chain. You know, when we started, we didn't have a unified way to address license compliance. And we fixed that and made an ISO standard and lots of reference material based literally on the community contributing their time and knowledge and energy, and then building consensus around the world. So community has been and always will be the heart of what we do. And it's one of the reasons that people stay engaged. We get to know each other. Like, I've known Kobota-san for about 8,000 years. And he's responsible not just for incredible contributions, but for adding fun to things. Like I was going to tell them about your secret study group. I'll leave it to you. Fun stuff. He'll reveal it on stage later. Anyway, I'll be up at the end to provide a little bit of a summary of what the lessons learned mean, but it's up to these gentlemen, our great Kobota-san and Shima-san, to provide the content. What is it that we've learned, how and why, over 8 years in Japan? All righty.
Okay. Thank you, Shane. Okay, let's get started. And at first, I'd like to start with this question to the attendees. Do you find it challenging to grow your pool of contributors? And even without your answers, it's clear that many open source projects are having difficulties to increasing contributors and maintainers. And we've seen that contributors from Asian community, especially Japan communities, are particularly limited compared to those from the other world. And today, I'd like to showcase the untapped potential of these contributions and explore how we can bridge the gap. And let me walk you through some data on the trends in Asian open source community data and why it matters. And first of all, on the far left side from yours, and these are the graph on the top 10 countries by the number of IT engineers worldwide. This data comes from a survey conducted by a private company. So I'm sorry, it's a little in Japanese. But this is coming from the survey from in 2024. And ranking first is India, and followed the United States in second place, and China coming in third. And interestingly, fourth place is coming from Japan. And it numbers about 1.4 million IT engineers in Japan. So in the Asian region, and South Korea is also featured, ranking in ninth. And on the other hand, on the right side, it comes from GitHub October's, it's same year's 2024 data. The United States clearly leads with a high number of contributors, and followed by India. And interestingly, even compared to countries like Germany, which have a similar number of IT engineers, contributions from China and Japan are also about half. So we might think the Japan engineers don't communicate with each other. But of course, obviously, the answer is no. This diagram represents the traffic data of one of the largest technical information exchange website in Japan, kita.com. As you can see, the site attracts around 700,000 visitors per day. And in 2024, its membership has exceeded 1 million people, as highlighted in their official blog post. Looking at the tag rankings, we can find popular topics such as Python, AWS, AI, and JavaScript. Implementation examples similar to GIST are also shared in this platform and often accompanied by comments from the visitors. So in addition, there are many domestic technology conferences have been held, and large events are also held with many developers in Japan, such as developers conferences, developers summit, which attract many participants. And however, it is still rare to see Japanese developers in global open source communities. So we believe increasing contributions from Japan and Asian software developers will significantly enhance the sustainability of global open source communities. So in the next section, we'd like to introduce the OpenChain Japan community as a great example of how active community in the Asia region can positively impact upstream project. So, Shima-san, can you start?
Thank you, Kobota-san. And now let's talk about the Japan working group of an OpenChain project, what we do, what we contribute, and how it has ripple effects across the world. When Japanese companies, Toyota, Hitachi, and Sony joined OpenChain, There was a need to discuss open chain activities and open source compliance in Japanese. And in 2017, the Japan Working Group has launched under the Open Chain project. Over the past 7.5 years, we have held 33 all-member meetings where we have shared our approach to open source lightning talks and best practices on license compliance and open source management. Now it's called Community Day instead of all-member meetings. During this time, our activities were restricted by COVID-19, and we had to cancel in-person meetings. But we continued our online activities and are now back to in-person events. The OpenChain Japan mailing list has been gradually expanding, and it now includes over 100 entities and more than 230 subscribers. We have also created 8 sub-work groups: planning, licensing FAQ, education, tooling and automation, SBOM, promotion, and OSPO, and have published several outputs. Next, I will introduce the key deliverables of the OpenChain Japan Working Group. Our outputs include, for example, a leaflet for software suppliers explaining open source licenses and supply chain issues, FAQ correcting common misunderstandings about OSS licenses, and formulating and upstreaming the SPDX Lite specification. We have also written and published several articles on open source compliance and OSPO for major Japanese tech online media. As you can see in this slide, these deliverables, the communication and discussions have been conducted in Japanese, and the documentation of our activities and most of our outputs have been published both in Japanese and English. Additionally, in order to spread the message more effectively, we sought out people we knew who could speak Chinese and Vietnamese and asked them to translate the leaflet. So we could also spread the message in languages other than Japanese and English. Since the launch of the OpenChain Japan Working Group in 2017, there has been a chain of regional working groups in several countries and regions, mainly in Asia. It is not necessarily true from this chart alone, but it is clear that the activities of Japan have actually energized the activities of regional communities in Asia. For example, Taiwanese community, members of the Japan Working Group join their communities and support the launch of its regional working group. The OpenChain project standardized the OpenChain specification as ISO IEC 5230 in 2020. And to date, more than 130 companies have announced the certification for the OpenChain specification 5230. If you look at the percentage of countries and regions where companies have announced their certification, you can see a few things. As this graph shows, Asia's share is nearby half of the total. And if Europe is included, it accounts for more than 75% of the total. And looking at the dotted area, the percentage of companies in countries and regions with regional working groups, China, South Korea, Japan, India, Taiwan, Germany, and the United Kingdom is high. From this, it can be seen that regions with active regional communities have increased the adoption of the OpenChain specification. So it's important to energize the regional community. The OpenChain Japan Working Group, in cooperation with the TODO Group, has held more than 50 OSPO local meetups to date. creating a FAQ on OSPO for companies that are setting up OSPO in the future, and discussing industry-specific open source strategies. And the OpenChain Japan Working Group, the TODO Group, and the Cloud Native Computing Japan jointly held a meetup called OSPO Japan Rally 2025. In this meeting, we discussed how to define and measure the value and benefit of OSS contributions by companies. We also discussed how to increase OSPO among Japanese companies. In this way, our OpenChain Japan Working Group has become a large regional community by connecting with other communities. I also be introducing some off-topic stuff. A community that's not fun just doesn't last. So as part of our community building, we include these off-topic activities. While chilling in hot springs and grabbing beers, we can casually discuss about open source, SPDX, and OSPOs. It's all good. When we are not tied to an agenda or time limits and can just relax, it really opens up the conversation, don't you think? Okay, that's all for my part. Could you continue, Kobota-san?
Thank you, Shima-san. And if you are interested in onsen, please let me know. Okay, I will plan next Open Source Summit Japan. Some of you are interested in the onsen SG. Please let me know. I will plan. Okay. And next, let's explore the motivations and purposes for establishing regional communities. And each region faces similar challenges. In Japan, as you all might know, the first challenge is language barrier. And in 2024, Shida-san, she is here, and presented at the Open Source Summit Europe and LF Members Summit, illustrates a very good, interesting presentation on this topic. When Japanese people attended a 1-hour English meeting, they get extremely exhausted, tired, compared to native English speakers. Why is this situation occurred? And the right side, in the paper from 2004 explains this well with the term linguistic distance. This study investigated how far languages are linguistically from English and how significant the differences are. The result shows that Korean language and the Japanese languages are among the languages most distant from the English. For my experience, many of us Japanese attended the English meeting. Firstly, I heard English word, I translated into Japanese in our brains. And after that, catching the meanings and building the responses in Japanese in our brain. After that, retranslate in English and answer the questions and so on. So, as you might experienced, most Japanese take a long time to answer your questions or communicate it. It's a little bit difficult to communicate it in meantime. So once I discussed with Japan community member that even if someone Japanese has very good opinions, they often cannot share their ideas in the meantime during discussions. For a community to develop healthy, it is very wasting for such things to happen. And if you want to gather a wide range of opinions, we need to bridge this gap. One method to do this is using non-real-time communications, such as GitHub issues or GitHub discussions and mail lists. Additionally, of course, establishing regional community where discussions can take place and bringing those summarized regional community discussions to the global community is very effective. And the second thing is differences in corporate culture and processes. While there are some variations between companies in Japan, but many Japanese companies have an approval process called Kessai process. Most engineering activities go through this Kessai process. And the same applies to, of course, open source activities. For example, even simple actions like creating issues or sending a bug patch, a few lines of code requires us to approve this Kessai process. And I have a question to the attendees. There are similar approval process do you have in European or US guys?
Like overview?
No?
You're filling out forms so you can submit a patch.
Yeah. No, okay. Okay. And in many Japanese companies, there is a culture to that priorities building consensus. So approval process is only granted when all stakeholders fully understand and agree with the activity. So the Kessai process often involves explaining what is the activity and obtaining approval from multiple parties, including legal teams, IP teams, and engineering managers. So this means that even something as simple as reporting an issue to the open source community or submitting a few lines of code can take over months. Incredibly. And can you believe that? And this kind of corporate culture is unique to the region, and people outside the region often are unaware of it. So as a result, they may not understand the need to discuss these challenges. There is the second reason why establishing regional community is important. There are many merits, as I introduced, for establishing the regional community, but as you might feel, the regional community is easily divided from the global community. So I'd like to share some insights from a key person who played a crucial role in expanding the OpenChain community in Asia. He faced several challenges when establishing and operating our regional community and adopted three major approaches to overcome them. And the first one is he worked on aligning the diverse business challenges of individual companies and reframing these challenges to other common challenges for the community. By identifying and unifying these similar issues and challenges, several smaller communities began to form under a shared umbrella. And the second one is he recognized that keeping these smaller communities active required more than just online interactions. That's why he made it a point to arrange multiple in-person meetings in early stage. So especially in early stages to building regional communities and global communities also, when people were still unfamiliar with each other, so face-to-face conversations proved invaluable for building mutual trust. And the last one is it's essential to actively showcase the achievement of the regional community to the global community. By continuously sharing outcomes and progress made, the work and vision of the regional teams become more clearer to everyone in the community. So this not only attracts valuable feedback to the open source global community, but also helps maintain high levels of motivation among participants, creating a positive cycle of growth in the community. And unfortunately, since these experiences took place before the COVID-19 pandemic, so there aren't any recordings available. But however, the materials he presented is available on these links, so please check it later if you are interested. And his three key approaches revolve around two fundamental aspects. First one is how to establish and how to sustain a regional community. And the second one is how to connect it harmoniously with the global community. To achieve this, roles such as ambassadors and community managers are essential. In our experience, both OpenChain and the TODO Group have successfully implemented these roles. At the OpenChain project, we are lucky to have our GM, Shane, today, and serving as an outstanding community manager and ambassador. He carefully observed every participant in our regional and global community. And let me share a brief anecdote. In one of our Japanese language meetings in the very past time, and despite the fact that I don't know Shane well at that time, and actually he understands Japanese well, and he can speak Japanese, I think. But he never does such thing in our local meetings. So I don't know such things. So the first time I asked him, shall we communicate in English? But he replied, I've been closely watching how the Japanese communities exchange ideas, and so please go ahead in Japanese languages. This moment perfectly illustrates that. To successfully drive a regional community, a community manager needs to understand each participant deeply. And listening carefully to their ideas and identifies their strengths and grasping what they want to accomplish. The next important aspect is role assignment. Once you identify each person's strengths and interests, it's crucial to assign the appropriate roles and responsibilities. This transforms passive observers to active contributors. And the last one is the role of ambassador. It's essential to spread the word about the regional community's activities to the global stage. By increasing awareness, people facing similar challenges in the region begin to connect and fueling the community's growth. And a comprehensive and clear onboarding process is also vital. And the TODO Group has excelled in this area. It can be challenging to communicate exactly what the community does. That's why we need well-organized materials that clearly outline who we are and our vision and our activities. The TODO Group publishes these onboarding processes on their GitHub, allowing newcomers to quickly understand what to expect and when and where events occur, while also making it easy to find the achievement of both the regional and global communities. And I believe OpenChain is now actively working on these areas, improvements. Is it okay, Shane? Okay. And thank you. And that's all our experience and findings. Today, with OpenChain GM Manager Shane is here, so we would like to conclude this session from final remarks from him. Shane, this is your stage.
This is my space. Thank you, Shima-san. So to wrap up, we are really thinking about the future now. And we've had a lot of lessons learned. Oh, that was your fault. Okay. We're thinking about the future. We're thinking about what can we do with these lessons learned for new people to get involved in our communities. We're all getting a little bit older, and we're very concerned about making sure that people who are coming into the field can access and feel welcome in places like Japan, in places like Korea and China. So the onboarding is part of that. Another part of it is simply to think, how did we do it in the very beginning? How did we start with a table of strangers and turn it into a community? So building new communities in Japan, bringing in people, building entirely new communities in other countries, those are front of mind. We're also very concerned about professional development. Right now, we've noticed that a lot of people are facing challenges with budget cuts. They're facing challenges with justifying their roles. And we're very concerned about how do we take the community's work, all the different skills that people have built, and explain that for personal career development. That's something we're thinking about a lot, especially for the young people just coming in. I've had people come up to me and say, how do I make a career in open source? And we want to explain to them that learning about business process management, about addressing business goals, these things are very useful for you personally. The final thing we're sort of doing is working out how to document all of the secret sauce. As you saw on these slides, the numbers, the data, how we did that. Document it and share it outwards to other communities. OpenChain is focused on some specific business challenges, making a trusted supply chain. There are so many other communities doing great work, and we want to make sure that the things we've discovered, the processes we've made, are available to them as well. And that's it then, the three things: making sure that young people get involved, making sure that people can see the value to their career, and making sure that other communities can build and grow and have the same type of scaling as we've seen in OpenChain or TODO. You're very lucky to have Kobota-san and Shima-san in this room, and some other people, like I see Watanabe-san is hiding over there. She's the chair of Japan Planning Subgroup, so secretly she's the chair of Japan. But we have no leaders in Japan, so you should grab her and ask what's going on, especially if you want to know about S-bombs. Owada-san is sitting just behind her, and he does all of the hard work on things like editing our videos and so on and so forth. Anyway, long story short, you have many great people bringing their experience to share it in North America. And whether it's, for instance, Endo-san at the back of the room on automotive, Kawada-san here from dealing with TODO Group stuff, catch them, talk with them, meet people, mingle, and please tell us what you think needs to be done to make communities healthier. To be honest, I think we're all a little concerned about how we make the next 10 years work, as well as the previous 10 years. So that's it. Does anyone have questions for Kobota-san or Shima-san?
Hi, thank you very much for the presentation. I think there's a lot of useful things that we in North America can also learn for growing communities. My question was, when you were talking about the off-topic activities, one thing that I have as a theory is what the role of these kinds of informal, non-work spaces are for building community connections, because there's different ways that we as humans socialize and make connections. And from my personal experience, I've seen this be really effective to build relationships that go beyond the event. So my question is, from your experience, what is the relationship between these things that are, considered like off-topic activities to long-term community growth, to people who come back to the community and maybe go on to do more in the project? Is there a strong connection that you've seen?
Yes, actually, I planned 2 times Onsen SG with other companies. And of course, we are making friendship. And we have same topics in the OpenChain project. So we discussed, also we are taking onsen. So it's very crucial because official places, there are many people, more than 10 or 20 people are joined. So, and the community people is, in case he is privately, joining privately, but he had the title from the specific companies. So he carefully to say something because they don't think about that, but he feel someone think he is a representative opinion from the company. So it's a little bit difficult to make some opinion from the companies. So, but in private space, we can communicate frankly, and sometimes we can exchange very useful information in such case. So relaxed time is, and of course, Linux Foundation having a coffee break longer other than other events. It's very crucial to having such relaxed time, I think. So I have many friends in the community. Yeah. Do you have any?
Oh, I just have one tiny add-on to that before we get to the next 3 questions. My goodness. And when it comes to the social events, I think one really important thing is sincerity. There's no marketing or anything like that. So I think that's key, because when you have an event that feels like it's still a work environment, it's not going to do what we did. And all over the world, I think in OpenChain, we've always had the attitude, let's just keep it very real always and very welcoming, and let's not have an agenda on these things. You know, there's no winner on, well, I suppose Kobota-san gets credit for onsen, but there's no real winner on outcomes or KPIs, and I think that's why it works.
Sorry, additional thing. We need to understand each other cultures. It's very helpful to understand their situation. Yeah. Okay, please.
Hi, yeah, thank you for your presentation. That was really great. I work for the Rust Foundation, and we are in the early stages of planning an event alongside Open Source Summit Japan in December, sort of dedicated to conversations about the professional use of Rust. And so a lot of your slides in there about how to make sure that events like that are valuable for the local community was really helpful. And I was wondering what you thought about an idea that we were just briefly discussing of basically releasing slides of talks that we have translated in both English and Japanese in advance to everyone attending. Would that be a helpful way to kind of make sure that the programming at an event like that is valuable for everyone, or are there other things we should be considering, probably translators and things like that?
Okay. Japanese translation is very helpful for Japanese, but and so you need to increase the attendees. Please provide translators. It's very helpful. But if we often met such situation, Japanese people don't want to join the global community. It's a little bit concern. So basically, we also encourage many developers to speak English firstly. So it is very helpful. But I think it's my opinion. We should communicate in English mainly.
Thank you. I will also be interested in onsen recommendations for when I'm there.
Okay.
Thanks for the talk. That was really interesting. You mentioned the language barrier, and I'm curious if you also have any comments on the time zone barrier.
Yes, yes. I attended many meetings in US and European time zone, so it is another barrier for Japanese. But it's often occurred. We have European and Japanese meeting in EU and JP time zone. In such case, US guys can't join the meetings. Yeah. Thank you.
We've got one last question.
Last question.
Thank you. I would also love to join the onsen study group for Open Source Summit Japan.
Sure.
My name's Emily Lovell. I work in an academic OSPO at the University of California, and I think a lot about students teaching and mentoring new contributors. So my question is, do you see a lot of new participation from college students, and do you think there are different motivations or challenges there in Japan?
Yeah, thank you. It's a very great question. We Japan communities are now discussing about such things. Compared to the US universities, Japanese universities don't care about the open source project. So we are, Watanabe-san, Endo-san, and we are always discussing. And recently, public sector, IPA, I'm not sure, IPA, public sector people are cooperating to build such communities. So we Japan communities want to join to such activities.
Thank you.
Oh, we're out of time. I'm
Sorry.
afraid.
It's,
Yeah, so
Endo-san, we've been called time, I'm afraid.
okay.
Now
So-
we'll never know. Come back next year for his question.
okay. Thank you very much for attending.